Hi guys, this is Miss Owens. Last week we went over the present and imperfect forms of the passive voice, and today we're going to add to our knowledge by learning about the future tense for the passive voice. As I go through these first few slides, I'd like you guys to follow along on this worksheet. Take your notes so you have them handy. They're going to be useful from here on out. If you remember me telling you this last week, this is going to be our last big concept for the year, so we're going to be doing a lot of practice. You want to have your notes in order. And then I'm going to lead you through some exercises at the end, okay? All right, let's get started. The passive voice. How does it work? Well, we take a normal sentence and we do a 180 with it. We take the direct object of our active voice sentence and it becomes the subject. English tries to avoid a lot of the passive voice, but Latin loves it. Here's an example of a sentence that is in the active voice. Your subject is doing the verb. Brutus stabbed Julius Caesar. Now, if I wanted to make this same sentence passive, I would take our direct object, which here is Julius Caesar, and I'd make it the new subject. I'd start with Caesar. So if I do that, I'm going to say Caesar was stabbed by Brutus. I can also say Caesar has been stabbed by Brutus. That's also totally fine. And in fact, you're going to see me telling you a lot of times that be, being, or been is a foolproof way to make a verb passive in English. So if you ever get stuck, I'm going to start saying be, being, or been when you try to make something passive. Don't forget, you take your direct object and make it your new subject. It's really pretty straightforward, okay? All right, so if that's how it works in English, how does it work in Latin? So we last week practiced our present and imperfect forms. They follow the normal formula that we're used to for active voice verbs. You get your stem, you add your vowel, and then you add your ending. For the passive voice, the ending changes. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's not that bad at all. So for our old favorites here, OST, mus, tis, nt, those are our personal endings. They refer to I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they. Those are the endings that we use for active voice verbs. We're going to take those endings and we're going to use these instead. Are, ris, ter, mer, mini, ntur. You see some similarities between these, but you kind of just have to learn them. They're going to be as familiar to you as OST, mustis, NT in no time. Okay? All right, so here is a active voice sentence in Latin. Same sentence, relatively, that we had on one of the first slides here. Brutus necat Caesarem. Brutus is your subject. Caesarem, em there, is your direct object. Necat is your verb. Brutus kills Caesar. Brutus kills Caesar. So if we want to take that and make it passive, we have to take Caesar again, which was the direct object, and make him the new subject. So Caesar is the way we're starting here. We're going to change the verb to necatur. That T becomes a TUR because that's the active to passive change. The next bit here, abrupto. We haven't talked about this too much. We're not doing sentences quite yet, so it's not the biggest deal in the world, but you should maybe recognize the fact that abrupto is a prepositional phrase. A takes the ablative, and so Bruto has been changed to the ablative here. But this says Caesar is being killed or is killed by Brutus. Him and 30 other guys we know from that story, but he was the last blow. Okay, so passive voice versus active voice is super important. We got to be able to identify these forms because it can really greatly impact the meaning of your sentence. Coque bas comes from coquo coquere. It means to cook. Coque bas, ba back in the day, you were cooking. Now, if we actually have in our sentence coque baris, still ba back in the day, but that ris ending means it's passive. So that word means you were being cooked. You do not want to get these confused. That can change a normal weeknight chore into disaster. You want to know the active versus the passive. You've got to be able to identify which one is which. So we're going to be practicing this a lot, okay? All right, so today, on to the new thing. This is what you're going to be taking notes on. We've got the future tense. And at the top of your page here, you're going to see a place for you to write in those conjugation markers. You hopefully have some of these, most of these, memorized. These should be in your head. They are not going to go away this year, next year, the year after that. They are a good piece of information to know. you should write them down. Put them on a Post-it note. Put it right next to the top of your computer screen. So every time you open up, you have to look at it. You should know these. And here I have it written as the first principal parts ending and the second principal parts ending. So O-A-R-E. O is the ending for the first principal part of any first conjugation verb, and A-R-E is the ending on the second form of a first conjugation verb. Maybe I just said a lot of stuff that just like splat on your brain and you just do not know how to pick that apart. Let's look at an example. It's a lot easier than you think. Here is a word, moweo mowere. It means to move. If I take a look at this word, I see EO on the first principal part and ERE with that nice long mark on the second principal part. Take a second, figure out which conjugation it is. Did you say second? Second is correct. If you said anything else, take another look. The first principal part ends in EO. The second one ends in long mark ERE. There is only one possibility. There's only one place where that matches. All right, take another second here. Punio, punire. Punio, punire. Which one is this? It's fourth, right? Super easy when you get the hang of it. You should have this written down. If you need to pause the video, you should go ahead and do so because one of your first tasks on here is going to be to try to identify which conjugation a verb is. So you want to have that handy. It's going to be really helpful for you. Okay, more notes. We've got our first and second conjugation formulation for the future tense passive voice. If you remember anything about the active voice for the future tense, you know there are two sets of endings. It's the only tense that does this thing, right? It has two different sets of endings. And it depends on whether you're at a first or second conjugation verb or a third, third IO, or fourth. So I have your notes page divided between these two as separate sets, okay? Make sure you write this one at the topmost set. The formula, always simple, always the same thing. I like this about this way of writing the formula. It is always the same. Stem plus vowel plus ending. Remember, you get your stem from the second principal part. Your vowel depends on your conjugation. So first conjugation uses an A and second conjugation uses an E. Then you've got your endings. These endings still say R, ris, ter, mer, mini, ntur, just like the present tense had on our previous notes. But here we have a little marker in front of it, the bo, be, boo that we are used to for the future tense. Bo, bi, bu is always the future tense. So bor, beris, bitur, bimur, bimini, buntur. Make sure you write those down. You should pause if you need to right now. All right, moving ahead. This translation for the tense will be will be. Remember, I always said that passive voice, the foolproof thing you can say is be, being, or been, make something passive. Here is a verb, uwo, uware, uwi, utus, which means to help. Uware, A-R-E. Hopefully you're looking there and automatically making that connection. This is a first conjugation verb, so we're going to use the notes that we've just taken. Here are the forms we would use for this. Uwabor, uwaberis, uwabitur, uwabimur, uwabimini, uwabuntur. This is not an example on your paper. You do not need to write these down. This is a good thing to refer back to if you get stuck later doing your homework, okay? This is a first conjugation verb, so here are the endings I use. And the meanings for these, again, will be shows something that's going to happen to the subject in the future, right? So I will be helped is uwabor. Uwaberis is you will be helped. Uwabitur, he or she or it will be helped. Uwabimor, we will be helped. Uwabimini, y'all will be helped. And uwabuntur, they will be helped. All right, if you get a verb that is third, third IO, or fourth conjugation, you're going to use the same formula, stem plus vowel plus ending. Again, I like it because it's consistent. Your vowels for this are third, no vowel, nothing extra to add. Third IO and fourth, though, both use an I as their vowel. How does third get away with having no vowel? Well, if you take a look at your ending set here at the bottom of the slide, you're going to see that these endings have a vowel already built in. So not having a vowel extra to add is a unique feature of the third conjugation, and it's going to work out just fine, okay? The endings here still are, if you take a look at it, are, ris, ter, mer, mini, ntur. The pattern is still there. That's not going away. But right in front of it, we've got an A for the first person singular and an E throughout the rest of them. This is why we call this the 1A and 5 E's technique, right? A-R, E-R-I-S, E-T-U-R, E-M-U-R, E-M-I-N-I, E-N-T-U-R. You should pause if you need to keep these notes. All right, moving on. Translation is still the same. It doesn't matter which kind of future you're using. It's always going to be will be. Duco, ducere, duxi, ductus is the verb I want to use this time. Which conjugation is duco, ducere? Duco, ducere. Did you say third? Third would be correct. We want to get our stem. That's D-U-C. We want to add our vowel, which, for third, that's no vowel. We want to add our endings. This is what it looks like. Ducar, ducaris, ducatur, ducemur, ducemini, ducentur. And the translations are still I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they. Don't forget to say will be when it's in the future. Great. So if we take a look at your worksheet, you hopefully have all of this filled out at this point. The first thing I want you to do right here is to give the conjugation numbers for the following verbs. Just a little practice for yourself to make sure that you're following along. If you have any questions about them, if there's something you can't figure out, you can feel free to send me an email or join my office hours every day, 9 to 10 a.m. But it's just going to be a number. For instance, promitto, promittere, O-E-R-E. Well, that's third conjugation. That's all I'd write there, okay? All right, now on to the real focus of this lesson. It is conjugating these 5 verbs in the future tense. I'm going to do the first one with you. Vulnero, vulnerare, vulnerali, vulneratus. It means to wound. Words like vulnerable come from this, or invulnerable. And notice it says Latin singular, Latin plural, English plural. We want to make sure we fully conjugate it. We are not showing a snapshot of this verb in our different tenses. That's called a synopsis. Instead, here we are fully conjugating it. So we're going to go through the I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they forms for all of these verbs, okay? First one here, vulnero, vulnerare. Hopefully you see that O, A-R-E we've got right there. That tells me it is first conjugation. That means I'm going to be using those endings that have B's with them. Bor, beris, bitur. You're going to have your notes right in front of you, so I'm not going to have to click back and forth like I will for my slide, but we can go ahead and start forming this. First thing we want to do is get our stem, because as you guys recall, it is going to be stem plus vowel plus ending. There it is right there. Stem plus vowel plus ending. To get my stem, I take off those last 3 letters, the ones we're looking at, to just find which conjugation we're in, right? Take those out of there. We don't need them. I'm left with B-U-L-N-E-R, Vulner. Because this is first conjugation, O-A-R-E, I'm going to be using this A vowel, vulnera, and just going to slap my ending on there, bor, at the ending, vulnerabor. Now, because, it wants me to change it to vulnerable, but I will not because that would be incorrect. Here is a little tip for you. Once you find your stem and your vowel, you can quite honestly do a nice little copy and paste job here all the way through. You don't have to do so much writing or make this harder for yourself. It's streamlined because it always uses the same stem and the same vowel. Pretty easy, right? But you will have to go back and find which ending set you want to use here. I'm just going to write it out for you so we don't go back and forth. But vulneraberis, vulnerabitur, vulnerabimur, vulnerabimini, and vulnerabuntur. There's some long words. All right, the endings here, their translations are always going to be in the same order, right? That's why we write them like this. I, you, he, she, it. You can just pick one if you want. I will not count that wrong. We, y'all, and they. And I need to write out the whole translation, but this last little bit here, again, I can just do some copy and pasting. It's really nice. So because it's future, will be, and the meaning of the word, wounded. I will be wounded. And like I said, I'm showing you all these tips and tricks here. You can do a little copy and paste here, right? Not too bad at all. And boom, that first one's done. So I've gone through all 6 person and numbers for this one. I want you to do that same thing. Identifying the different conjugation numbers is super important. Knowing the difference between a third IO and a third or a second or whatever it happens to be, right? I would like you to make sure you find those. If you have any questions or concerns, please speak with me. I'd, in fact, love to hear from you, even if you don't have any questions or concerns. I hope that you're doing well. But I am here for you. And every weekday, 9 to 10 a.m., I have my office hours. I always post a link for that in our classroom. Or if you have a question outside of that time, email is the best way to get a hold of me. But I hope you're doing well, guys. I miss you. Take care of yourselves. Be healthy, be well.